Hey guys, so welcome to episode 2 of the What's Up Diz podcast. Today we're going to be talking about movie theories. I'm here with my co-host Maria.
Hello, I'm the co-host.
And I'm also co-host Eddy. I should have said that first. But you know, it is what it is. We're figuring things out as we go. Mm-hmm. So yeah, as mentioned, today we're going to be talking about movie theories. Mm-hmm. Now, Maria, can you kind of go more in depth exactly of what movie theories are in a sense?
Yeah, well, I am a big film geek. And I really like to analyze films. And that's basically what these theories that we're talking about today, a lot of them are actually fan theories.
Right.
So a theory is basically, how would you say it? Like it's...
If you always thought that there's more to what, like if you have a movie you love and you think that there's way more to it than you would have originally thought, and you kind of go down the rabbit hole of what the possibilities could be if this were another way or if this was written differently. Or if you take a minor detail and like check at all the possible things that could mean and how it could connect to something else that exists. And without a doubt, I think Disney movies have by far the most theories. Like almost every Disney movie has a theory
about every Disney film.
Yeah.
And obviously most of them have already been like debunked or most of them are fan theories. But there are some that I do find interesting and there's some that I would say that they're kind of true. Obviously Disney's not going to confirm them, but I don't know. There's one theory in here that I'm like, oh, for sure.
Right. Because I know you did a lot of research on movie theories.
Yeah. I mean, I love the Disney films and I like to rewatch them a lot.
Right.
And when you rewatch them, you're like, oh, wait, what if this was this way? Or what if this person is connected to this person? Like, you just really start to, like, analyze them because you're so familiar with them. They're like, there has to be more to this. And you're probably just like, we're probably just reaching. A lot of this is just really reaching. Yeah. But I still find it interesting to think about.
Yeah. What I love so much, or whenever I imagine someone talking about movie theories, Even with the last thing we talked about with conspiracy theories, the first thing I think about is that famous meme from the episode of It's Always Sunny in Philadelphia. Some people might know what I'm talking about, the Pepe Sylvia fiasco, where from the characters Always Sunny in Philadelphia, they're working like in a mailroom, and one of them has mail that he doesn't know who it belongs to, and literally he has this entire wall with like connecting strings like
the famous meme.
Yeah, he's like, who is Pepe Sylvia? Pepe Sylvia doesn't exist. Like goes to this crazy thing. So, and there's a famous meme of that guy. And like whenever I think of theories, I immediately think of just that meme. And it's just, oh God. And usually most of the time they're not as crazy as what the whole Pepe Sylvia thing was, but it's just fun to think of that. But
exactly, that's the main thing. Like this last one was a little bit, darker, but this one's mainly just fun to think about. Yeah. Because I mean, some of them are just stupid.
Of course.
Some of them are just stupid. Yeah. But I don't know. I think they're fun.
Yeah. So if you're listening on Spotify or on YouTube or whatever the case may be, just so you know, we do actually do our podcast live on Twitch. You're more than welcome to check that out. It's twitch.tv/whatsupdizpodcast. We'll probably have the links down in the description or the show notes, wherever the case may be. We'll also have our Instagram there, which we like to post. We usually post there a couple days before our next episode, which is every Saturday. You can see what the next topic is going to be, kind of get a heads up on what we're going to be talking about. And of course, contribute to it too, because we always seek out new suggestions. Yeah. And for the topics we already have, we might need some details from people or things that you might suggest that we haven't even thought of.
Yeah, for sure.
So before we get in with the movie theories that we actually already listed, since you already saw a bunch of them, were there any that you thought were just like the absolute worst? Like how could someone have come up with this conclusion? This is just so... In your opinion, what would you say is the dumbest theory that you came across?
Well, I'm a big fan of Beauty and the Beast, as you know.
Of course.
And so the one that really made me laugh, I don't think it's the most ridiculous one, but the one, it was that Belle, when she was in the castle, you know how Mrs. Potts and Cogsworth, and there's these enchanted things that come to life, but they're actually people.
Of course.
And it's reality, it's the curse, that's why they're like that.
Yes.
They say
because the Beast was a rude bitch.
No, he was only 11. I'm gonna talk about this.
He was only 11?
When he was cursed. I'm going to talk about this. We're going to get into it.
Of course you're going to be a piece of shit. 11-year-old boys are always a jerk.
Yeah, I have beef with the enchantress, all right? I am angry at her, but we'll get into it later. Belle, the theory is that she's schizophrenic. And that whole thing.
What?
That's the theory. There's a theory that Belle is schizophrenic, and that's why when she goes into the castle, like that's all just like messed up images in her head, and like even the beast is like not real to her. It's actually a normal guy, but she thinks of him as a beast, and I don't know.
Okay.
Yeah, she's schizophrenic.
Now, all right, if just I don't even have to think much about how this theory makes no sense. Because if Belle was schizophrenic, then literally the entire second act and third act of the film would make no sense. Because if Belle's schizophrenic, she's the only one who's seeing all these things.
Exactly.
Yet the entire village, including Gaston, is on the hunt to fight this beast.
Oh, and Gaston apparently saved France from an army of feral chickens. There's a couple from Beauty and the Beast, and Gaston, and because he was like, when I was a lad, I ate 5,000 eggs. Like, he's basically, wow, he ate all the eggs. He saved us by eating all the eggs.
So this war hero of
he's a war hero.
This war hero of yore, his accomplishment wasn't, fighting hundreds of soldiers and being good looking. It's because his war credentials, is all based off of fighting chickens.
Killing the pollos.
Oh my God.
That's exactly what it is.
That's hilarious.
No, it's so funny. I mean, I'm sure there's more. There's another one that who said that apparently Ariel finds the sunken ship of the king and queen of Arendelle, which is that's just like
the thing was, okay, I know about that one, and I had seen that kind of been throwing around. People have been throwing that one around ever since the first Frozen came out, but I know another funny one. I'm sorry to cut you off. That the enchantress and the prince, the beast, was like, he was like seduced by her. They had a thing.
So they had a thing, they had a thing, and she got pregnant and had the child, and the child actually ended up being Chip, and Chip is not really Mrs. Potts' son because Mrs. Potts is too old to have a son. And they really think that, that's reaching.
That's entirely based on the notion or the possibility
that Potts is too old to have a son.
That the enchantress was a cougar, pretty much.
I have beef, and I don't like the enchantress. I'm angry at her.
I don't blame you.
So we'll get into more of it later.
Especially now knowing that the beast, or whatever the name of the prince was, I don't remember his name. But he was 11 years old. I'm
going to get more into it when we go to Beauty and the Beast because, messed up.
Super messed up. I don't even know how you can even come to that. But yeah, the Frozen theory you're talking about, or that the ship that Ariel found was the Arendelle ship. Mm-hmm. There's a whole slew of reasons why that makes no sense. Just from a historical standpoint, people going into like the time frames or like the historical eras that they're supposed to take place. But basically Frozen 2 just completely debunked that.
Yeah, no, of course
on its own, just because,
of course it does,
because they find the ship. But who knows? Maybe I'm sure they'll come up with other theories based off of the new information we got on Frozen.
And I think that's people just wanting to make things more interesting than what they already are.
True. Well, everyone has their interests and hobbies. So just so as we move forward, we're not like here to just trash talk the theories that exist and the people who created these.
No, I think they're interesting, and I think they're really fun to just think about.
Exactly. Because I mean, to come up with these kinds of theories, some of them are like, you must have a really good attention to detail.
No, and
a great imagination too. And
also the ability to actually create a pretty decent argument, like props.
Yeah. But just as the internet is, like, if you put something out on the internet, it's going to be subject to people,
giving their opinion,
whether they agree or disagree.
Exactly.
And we're just as much subject to that too. So
we're really just doing it because we find it interesting.
Of course.
And we like it.
Yeah, of course.
It's all love here.
Absolutely. If you have any of your own comments or thoughts on the ones that we talk about here, if you want to add any particular, by all means share them. Anyway, let's get over to the presentations, which if you're listening on Spotify, You won't be able to see them, but you can check it out on YouTube.
And our Instagram.
We could see some of the slides that we have, or you could rewatch on YouTube.
I
will
describe them in full detail for you.
In full,
full detail.
We didn't make them that like overly detailed just for the sake of, not everyone's going to have the opportunity to look at these when they listen to us back on Spotify or Apple Music, wherever else they'd like to listen to this, and just listen while they drive or wherever they can.
Drive safe.
Hey, yeah, by the way, if you're driving in traffic right now, lower the window and blast it so I can yell at the person next to you. Hey, lady, get off your phone! Thank you.
And always wear your seatbelt, por favor.
Yes. Por favor, manténganse alejado de las puertas. Sorry, we have to. It's Disney Park Insider.
I want that on my grave.
If you understood the reference, give a 5-star review or a thumbs up wherever you're listening to this, and let us know where that's from. Anyway, theory number 1. Aladdin takes place in a post-apocalyptic future. So can you kind of explain more what this means?
Okay, so when I first heard of this theory, I thought, what? Like, this makes absolutely no sense.
Yeah, to me neither.
Okay, basically what people are saying is that because with the genie especially, Genie makes a lot of jokes that are referred to at that time, like a lot of jokes about pop culture.
Right. He's kind of like the one.
And he's very modern.
Absolutely.
Very, very modern. The way that he speaks, the slang, the jokes. Also at the beginning, the merchant, and also the famous Tupperware. And,
yes.
And he was selling the Tupperware as if like, ooh, Tupperware. Look at it. Like as if it's this incredible thing.
Got it.
So people are saying is that this takes place way in the future. Way, way, way in the future. And so obviously it's in ruins, but obviously we have the palace. So they're somewhat trying to get back on their feet in this world. But we had already had all this like technology and the stuff that they had back then. But now it's just like, so that's why the Tupperware is apparently so valuable. That's why he's selling and he's like, oh, look at this, the Tupperware. Yeah. I mean, it's a reach, but the main point that people make is because of the genie and the way that he talks to Aladdin, the references that he makes. Like he does like an Arnold Schwarzenegger impression at one point or something like that. And who would they know? And Aladdin doesn't say anything about it. So for Aladdin, this is like, oh yeah, I remember that or whatever.
I see. So even though it's heavily backed by the concept of essentially all the jokes that they were making, the pop culture jokes, when you put in that perspective, it kind of opens up the idea that maybe even like, the magic carpet isn't necessarily magic. It's just like some form of advanced technology from the future. And
also when Genie goes like, oh, 10,000 years can give you such a crick and neck. So people think this is 10,000 years in the far off future.
Ah, okay. Interesting. But yeah, I think
it's interesting to think about. I don't think it's likely.
Right.
I think it's just simply just a fantasy story and it's magic and it's
because from what I'm starting to see, what they consider the evidence for them is mainly the jokes that were made in the movie. So I mean, I'm pretty sure all that was done is just to build some form of comedy or build some form of like rapport with the audience to make them think, oh, this is I understand this is funny, because not everyone is fully familiar with Arabic culture.
Yeah, and so I'm going to bring up arguments about this theory.
Oh, by all means.
So, all right, because there's one here. It's like, some may argue, well, why would he do all those jokes if Aladdin wouldn't get them? Right. And that's what I just said about the theory. But a lot of people said that Aladdin wouldn't have understood the jokes the genie was referencing, but after 8,000 years, Aladdin would not even know who, like, let's say, Groucho Marx was.
Right.
So, and they say that there's actually a line in the movie that Genie goes like, indoor plumbing, it's going to be huge.
Oh, yeah, then that kind of goes against the whole...
It goes against it.
Right, exactly.
So, but people really wanted to like... I'm going to say this right now, I don't believe this theory, and obviously Disney doesn't believe this theory as well.
Right, of course.
But I really don't see this.
I don't really see it that much either, to be honest. But if you're going to rely on the comedy, then the comedy already... I
think it's just... I think the jokes and all the stuff that Jeannie was saying, because it's really heavily mainly on him, this theory. I think they were just trying to make it relatable to when that movie came out, which was like in the 90s.
Right. Yeah.
And I think that's all it was. I don't think it was because like, ooh, secretly this is all far in the future.
Yeah, like, oh, they're making like indirect references.
No.
It's just because exactly. The jokes, if you're going to use the jokes as your evidence, there's plenty of other jokes that contradict what you're saying to begin with.
Exactly.
But it's still a cool thing to think about.
No, if you want to think about it that way, it seems really cool. Like, oh, wow.
Totally. It really changes your perspective.
Like 10,000 years in the future. Woo!
Yeah.
But,
so, I mean, the other great thing about these theories, even though we find arguments and things against it, like, regardless, rewatch the movies with having those theories in your mind. Because it really kind of, like, we watch those movies all the time. Like, we might have seen most of these movies maybe like 20, 30, 40, 50 times in our lifetime. But if you're not that type of person, or even if you are, having these theories in mind while you rewatch those movies kind of gives it an interesting twist, and you enjoy the movie.
It's like a different experience.
Yeah.
Because like, even though like, okay, like this one, like this one's not going to be true. However, if you keep it in your mind, it's like, oh, what a weird perspective on this film.
Exactly. And that's the thing. Like, I know I always have friends that are like, dude, rewatch this movie, but have this in your mind when you watch it. Same concept here with these theories.
Yeah, but Aladdin is just like a fantasy movie.
Yeah.
Like a magic carpet, a genie, a parrot that talks.
Yeah.
Jasmine has a tiger.
Yeah, and if
like
this
a dog.
When I think of post-apocalyptic world,
I think of like Hunger Games.
True.
I think of like District 12 Hunger Games.
I think of the Fallout video game series. And
that's right.
For any of my friends who play Fallout, then they know, like, if this were really post-apocalyptic, there would be some form of lasers somewhere. Even if they made it like out of like sand and camel dung, they would have had some kind of laser. And lasers would be cool.
Lasers are in the future, ladies and gents.
No post-apocalyptic future makes sense without
lasers.
Without lasers or some like crazy cool technology that's made from like bare bones materials. Because the thing is, it's just having the knowledge, okay, hear me out. Like almost in every series that has a post-apocalyptic future, they can make lasers and crazy technology out of like some type of MacGyver style of getting all these, like, all right, I need tape, I need gasoline, I need these, because all these materials and the chemicals combined can make this crazy laser or this beacon or this crazy stuff, because the technology had already been discovered in the past. That's usually what they imply. The technology has been discovered in the past.
Yeah.
So now we know, like, if we take the certain elements or chemicals from these other basic materials, we can recreate like a more jerry-rigged version of whatever we're creating, in this case a laser. So I don't
believe this theory because it doesn't have lasers.
That's basically my argument. No lasers, no argument.
No argument. But yeah, so yes, but no, Aladdin does not take place in the future.
Sorry, Aladdin.
This
one's a bust.
He's still so hot.
In our
Damn, for real.
It's okay,
They had no business making a Disney prince that hot.
Jasmine was pretty hot too, in my opinion.
I agree. I agree.
Okay, so now we're on to numero dos. Theory number 2. Mother Gothel and the evil queen are the same person. So...
Dun, dun, dun.
So explain this one.
God, I don't know where to start with this one. I think it's just a coincidence, but whatever. But realistically, like, if you really like dive into the rabbit hole, it is really interesting because there is a lot of similarities between Mother Gothel and the evil queen. They're both two like wicked stepmothers. Even though Rapunzel thinks that Mother Gothel's her real mother,
right?
No, it's a stepmother and she's evil. She keeps her locked away, and the evil queen, she's awful.
Right.
I think she's actually one of the worst ones, and I'll tell you why.
Okay.
Because the evil queen, she said, after you kill Snow White to the huntsman, like, bring back her heart in a box. That's gross.
That's pretty gross.
That's unsanitary. So
But what I'm curious is, where's the connection?
Okay, so what people say is that usually every Disney fairy tales, they come from the Grimm brothers tales. A lot of them.
A lot, either that
or Hans Christian.
Or yeah, was it the
Hans Christian Andersen?
The
Dutch writer.
Oh, Hans.
Well, no, Hans, but so also his folk tales.
Yeah.
So, but obviously they were really dark.
Yeah.
So Disney wanted to create a new story and kind of Disney-fy it and make them family friendly.
Of course, but unfortunately, you can't go full PG because with stories as dark as that, you need to have some element of the dark aspect, the conflict.
Yeah, of course.
To actually have a solid
Disney
film.
does a great job doing it. There's always a conflict. There's either a villain or there's like a bad situation, and you see the hero or whoever overcome it, and that's the story, and that's what makes it like a beautiful fairy tale, happily ever after. So basically, these, and they all take place in a different country or state, like in a different time also.
Of course.
Like Belle was in France. Let's see, Cinderella. I forgot where Cinderella was actually. Wasn't it in like
Cinderella? I believe that one takes place in I'm not sure.
I forgot about Cinderella, but
you have to look that one up. But go ahead, continue.
But basically, they all take place in different countries. With this one, they think there's a connection because Rapunzel is set in Germany, and so is Snow White.
Cinderella takes place in France.
Okay.
Literally as soon as I looked up the answer, I immediately started thinking of Jacques.
Oh, Jacques, of course. Yeah, but so people think, or like, they both take place in Germany. You're like, okay, great.
Connection already. Theory confirmed. Same place.
But also, they look similar. Obviously, it's a different animation style, so we, like, our brains are like wired to be like, oh, they're completely different just because the animation style is different. Right. But if you think about it, they're both, light skin. They have dark hair. So that's why people also say they're like the same person. They also have the same weapon, because with the evil queen, she said, bring back her heart, and the huntsman had her dagger. Right. So that's the evil queen's dagger. Mother Gothel, her weapon of choice is a dagger. Right. And if you look at it, it looks similar. Yeah. If we were to find photos of the daggers, in fact, let me actually do that real quick. You want to put it up? Yeah. Yeah, so it's interesting. And then also if you look at their outfits, the evil queen has like this purple dress with like a red sash on her waist. Mother Gothel has like a red dress with a red sash on her waist. But basically that's another connection that people say like, oh, they look similar. They have a dagger. I mean, it's a stretch. It is kind of a stretch. It's a stretch. Honestly, yeah, this is kind of a stretch. But another one. Here, so let me pull this up on here so you guys can see what I'm talking about. So that's the dagger from Tangled. That's Rapunzel's dagger. Or I'm sorry, Mother Gothel's dagger. And then I've said the word dagger so many times it doesn't even sound like a word anymore. And then this is the dagger that's on the queen's. They look different. It's just how do people think this looks like this? I mean, I'm not even okay. I'm a guy and I consider myself a very nerdy person. Let me ask you. Yes. Whenever we go to conventions, what is one of my favorite booths to go to? It's a pretty big one. It's usually in the front. There's a lot of oh my god. I'm drawing a blank. I don't know you as much as I think I do. Wow. Oh my god. No, you like to see the games. Right. You like to see the controllers. Yeah. But there's usually one specific table that I may not spend that much time in. I just kind of like, I really spend a lot of time focusing on the things, but I barely ever stop. The swords. The swords. There you go. Yeah, the swords. So when we go to cons, I'm always looking at like the sword displays, which to me, they're like, I don't buy one because they're super expensive, but I always like looking at them and just seeing how close they are to the original, sword that they're trying to make. And even someone like me, and there's plenty of people out there who specialize in swords and know the differences and can see every minor detail
all the way to the type of metal that's used, whatever the case may be. And just to really show you, like, I'm not that smart, I'm not that knowledgeable in like types of swords and different kinds, I can already point out that those two are not the same. So that is already a very big stretch.
Okay. Another I was about to say another stretch, but another part to this theory.
Another argument to this, okay?
Once Rapunzel cuts the hair, well, Flynn cuts it for her.
Right.
And so Mother Gothel's kind of picking up the hair and you see her kind of deteriorating. Mm-hmm. Basically that vision of her looking like this old like woman with the cape, people say that reminds them of how the evil queen in her haggard stage.
The hag.
Of her haggard stage. That's what people are saying. And also when she falls to her death, mm-hmm. the evil queen of Snow White, she also falls to her death.
So they're connecting but hold on.
I know exactly what you're gonna say, and I'm ready for it. But
now I'm confused.
Okay.
Is the theory that the evil queen and the mother goth?
Mother. Well, their names.
The mother.
Their names, because I forgot how to pronounce the evil queen's real name, but it was like Queen Gwendolyn or something. Not Gwendolyn, but it's something starting with a G. But mm-hmm. apparently that word actually means mother. Mm-hmm. And Mother Gothel.
Got it. So the confusion that I have is Mother Gothel and the evil queen the same person in different times of their life, or is literally just the evil queen a like alternate universe version of Mother Gothel and vice versa?
From what I've read, it looks like it's that like they just move on, like it's a new life, but like it's the same soul, like it's the same like person. So
in a way, what they're saying is like, since technically Snow White came out beforehand, what it's like is that the evil queen story happens where, you know, she turns into the old hag trying to kill Snow White.
So basically,
she dies and then reincarnates as Mother Gothel.
It's such a stretch. Okay. Well, I'm even getting confused. Evil queen with the boulder. When she falls, I'm falling. Mm-hmm. She like apparently survives the fall. Mm-hmm. Stay with me. Stay with me.
She survives.
Because when you see in the beginning of when you see in the beginning of Tangled, you see like this old woman, she's like, flower, gleam and glow, with this like, mm-hmm. She's chanting like as the evil queen chants to her mirror, mm-hmm. and it kind of gives her youth and stuff like that. So basically, mm-hmm. she falls. She's injured.
Okay.
And I think she's like kind of like crawling through the forest, sees this flower, and since she knows about potions, because the evil queen had an entire lair, she was like, "This is the elixir," and she did this chant as if like it's from her spell book, and she, regained her youth, and she noticed that she was in this new place, in this new kingdom when she was walking around, and she found out that Rapunzel, who was the baby, is the source of the magic. She was like, I must take this. I couldn't get Snow White. I'm gonna take this one though.
So this story or this theory is entirely relies on the basis of the evil queen surviving her death by boulder and having enough energy to somehow
I have some key points too.
To somehow crawl to the flower to give her youth, not only her youth back, but her organs that have probably been completely busted up. Not buying it.
Listen, I just have some extra points. I have extra points. Is they both share an obsession with beauty.
Okay.
They look similar in youth and old age, which mm-hmm. they do. They have a hunch structure even when they're old. They're both jealous of their youth, old daughters. Mm-hmm. They both turn into old hags. They have the similar same daggers. Mm-hmm. There is also a poison apple painted on the banister in Rapunzel's tower in Tangled.
Okay.
And Flynn, when he's in the kingdom, the snack he gives to Maximus the horse are apples.
Right.
So there's a connection, like apples, like apples still bring up. Gothel knows her way around Coronis Castle a little too well for someone who's never been inside it before. as shown by the ease which she is able to break in and literally steal the king and queen's daughter out from under their noses, is because maybe once she had lived there.
Now, okay.
But that goes into, because another theory says that like they either do it one after the other or there's time in between.
Right. Now, the thing is that you could automatically imagine the castles don't look anything alike.
I know.
In the slightest. So, I mean, with all these
gotta
points,
glow up.
Do you have a couple more points if I'm not mistaken?
Yeah, no, the short drunk. This is my favorite one.
Okay,
because I've read these before.
Yeah.
The short drunk guy in the snuggly duckling entangled is actually a dwarf. Which dwarf would he be? Who is he?
Oh, it's
Shorty.
It's the forgotten eighth dwarf.
Because according to the Disney Wiki, his name is Shorty, which sounds remarkably similar to Happy, Dopey, Grumpy, and I'm like, Shorty? That's such a
Shorty?
That's such a stupid name to give to a dwarf. Obviously, he's short. Like,
would Shorty be like the shortest of the seven dwarfs? He's the eighth. He's the eighth dwarf. We don't talk about him.
But
he's the one with the drinking problem.
Oh my! But yeah, but a bunch of these points is like what I said before. Like, she owns a book about alchemy, the evil queen, so that goes into the flower connection. That's why she knew what the flower was. So I mean, yes, I do think there's similarities in the sense that they're both women who are very jealous, very possessive women, obviously. Mm-hmm. They're women who share the same lust to be the most beautiful woman in all the land.
Of course.
They're both afraid of getting old.
Right.
That's why in their haggard state, like, it's a different mindset for them. Mm-hmm. They do both have a dagger.
Right.
They're both evil, like, stepmothers in a sense. Mm-hmm. So yes, they're similar, and they do both die by falling from great height. The last point I remember is that when she fell, Mother Gothel, to her death, she was dust, meaning that she had been alive for so many years that finally, when she lost everything, she just deteriorated into dust because she's so old.
Now, if we were to kind of take that theory and put it in, I don't know, like how Marvel does their multiverse stuff.
Yeah.
Then I could
kind of see it better.
Yeah.
But to say that they're the same person, to go, hold up.
That's very.
I think they're just both toxic.
Yeah,
toxic women.
That's just because, yeah, if they're implying that it's the same person, there's one big detail that they're failing to mention, which is no one can survive a death like by boulder. Literally, and it's a huge boulder too. So either multiverse or the other way it could possibly be real is if Mother Gothel and the evil queen are related, either sisters or something.
I think that's more like, oh, that makes sense.
That would be
like,
more...
I'll accept it.
If they were.
But for me to be like, they're the same person, I'm like, no, I think maybe that's Mother Gothel's like the forbidden child that the evil queen had with the huntsman. Ooh.
That could, well, now, the thing is...
Yes, maybe.
But the evil queen, that doesn't seem like the evil queen's style. She, with how vain she is, she doesn't seem like the kind of person that would, waste her precious flower, no pun intended, on some boring ass, like, ugly, smelly huntsman.
He is not that ugly.
I remember
Poor huntsman.
I remember the huntsman not being that attractive.
Pobrecito. Poor guy, man. So, I'm sticking up for my huntsman here. He deserved better.
Oh well.
All right, well, that one's fun.
I think it was pretty fun and interesting. Well, this next one... Okay,
very popular.
This next one is extremely popular. I'm sure most of you have heard of this theory at least once in your life.
Now, this one makes sense to me.
The Frozen theory. Disney's Frozen theory. Shh, copyright. Well, I'm not Disney gonna be like, she's singing it, go.
No, come on now.
Well, Happy Birthday is actually still copyright.
That's a crime.
Yeah, so.
All right, so the Frozen theory.
Frozen theory, woo. So I'm sure, again, most of you have probably heard of this theory already. If you haven't, give a quick synopsis.
Very quick, because there's a lot that goes into it. Basically, the king and queen, they're I'll just say it actually even quicker. People think that Anna and Elsa are the cousins of Rapunzel, and they think that the king and queen of Arendelle actually did survive the shipwreck, and they ended up on this jungle, and I guess she was already pregnant, and she already gave birth, and so that son eventually became Tarzan.
So, okay.
Yes.
Yeah. TLDR. Rapunzel and Anna and Elsa are cousins.
Are cousins. That I believe.
Tarzan is the illegitimate child of the illegitimate brother of Anna and Elsa.
No, it's their brother. That's what they're saying.
Oh, well,
it's their brother.
Their long lost brother. Yes. Okay. So I've seen this being thrown around quite a lot, and I do remember not really being fully on board with it, and I do remember finding some arguments. But before I even get to the arguments, state your case. What's the evidence here?
I believe that Rapunzel is related to Anna and Elsa. And I say this because they do look alike. If you put a cousin, not a sister, a cousin. If you put Rapunzel next to Anna and Elsa, okay, they look alike.
Right.
And it makes sense to me because there is a cameo right before Elsa's coronation.
Yeah, the famous cameo.
Right, but that's a really exclusive event.
That is,
and they were walking into the palace where they were letting in people who were only invited.
Right.
Why would Flynn and Rapunzel be invited? And Rapunzel at that point already had the short brunette hair.
Well, I mean, was it ever really mentioned in the film that it was invites only?
A coronation?
A coronation.
You cannot. Yes, a coronation. Listen, I've been to 0 coronations in my life, and I know because I wasn't invited.
Have you ever tried?
Huh?
Have you ever tried?
No.
Then how do you know?
Well,
I'm sure. I don't know. I feel like that's, I don't know.
But they are walking into the coronation. Like, why would they go? Because this is in Arendelle, so this is in Norway.
Just for
Germany, Norway. Why would they travel all the way from Germany to Norway just for like, ooh, let's see if we can get into this party?
Okay. Well, there really isn't anything to.
The theory also matches up to the Tangle's timeline. After the death of the king and queen of Arendelle, Frozen jumps ahead 3 years to Elsa's coronation. 3 years the amount of time that has passed between the release of Tangled and the debut of Frozen. From 2010 to 2013.
So, okay. So it bases that off of the time it released.
Yes.
Not based off of the time that it's meant to be around, historically speaking. I mean, we can't even use history. We can't entirely use history as a basis because these are fictional films. But a lot of the universe that it's within is based off of very specific. It's based on very specific, time periods.
But another thing is that Elsa has her powers.
Right.
Rapunzel has her power.
But Rapunzel wasn't born with the power, was she? Didn't she?
She was born with the power.
Damn, I haven't seen Tangled in a long time.
She was born with the power because when her mother was gravely ill, they heard about this elixir and this special flower that would help heal her.
Oh,
because
I see.
Rapunzel's mother was not going to survive the birth.
Right. So
the king obviously was like, we need to figure out something. So they went on this search of this magic flower that they heard of, and they only found one. And so they put that flower in a water bowl and made her drink it during her pregnancy. She got healed. And so that's why Rapunzel's parents, they're both brunette. And Rapunzel came out blonde because the flower was yellow.
Right.
And people thought, oh, the hair is a sense of her magic. But the thing is that since she actually drank it, it's actually just the sense of her magic is just Rapunzel. Right. Rapunzel is just magical. So yes, Rapunzel is born with magic. I see. And Elsa is obviously born with her powers. But in Frozen, notice this. The dad gave her these gloves as like, this should help. How would he know if that should help? There's also a theory that Elsa's grandfather had the same powers that Elsa did.
The guy, the one that we saw in Frozen 2 that pretty much caused the reason why everything went poo-poo in Frozen 2, as far as the, okay. Interesting.
But so I'm saying, so Rapunzel has powers, Elsa has powers.
Okay.
Architecture, nature, landscape, and the style of dress in Tangled is like somewhat similar to the style. Obviously, it's different because it's more Norwegian style and this is German style.
Of course.
But if you look at it, it's like, oh, this looks pretty similar.
Right.
So, I don't know. This one, I think, makes sense to me.
I see. I mean, yeah, the interesting thing, I think, is just, I was expecting, personally, because I'm just a natural skeptic, as you probably can tell from most of the stuff we've been talking about today. I was expecting Frozen 2 to really, like, debunk most of these theories, which it did some of them, like the one with the connection with Ariel, that was immediately debunked after Frozen 2.
I think it debunked the Tarzan 2.
Did it really? Actually, in a way, yeah, I think it did.
They didn't end up on a jungle or an island.
Right, they didn't.
So I think it already debunked it.
Yeah. So.
I'm about to talk about the Tarzan one, though.
Go for Tarzan too.
Okay, I mean, so basically, they board the ship, and also they say that they boarded the ship because they were going to Flynn and Rapunzel's wedding.
Yeah.
So.
That's already obviously not true, because Frozen 2 clearly states why they went
basically
on the
the ship gets swallowed up in the sea, and the whole thing, they got wrecked, they drowned, and RIP. So they say that after being swallowed in the water, they got shipwrecked on this like island in Africa. So they constructed a treehouse to live in, and they gave birth to a son. And then basically that whole beginning scene in Tarzan, which if you've seen Tarzan, then you know what I'm talking about. That whole scene is basically the end of their parents. So they actually died on the jungle.
Yikes.
Yeah, that's what they're saying.
I see.
And then Tarzan then was raised by gorillas.
So that's okay. So basically, yeah, the connection with Rapunzel is definitely still a possibility.
I think so.
You think it is?
I think they're cousins.
Okay. I mean,
that makes sense to me.
I think it's definitely possible from what you're telling me, because at first I just saw it as just them, putting an Easter egg there just for the sake of putting an Easter egg in there, because they like to do that and give people plenty of reasons to rewatch the movies so they can try to find those little details they didn't notice before, which is why I personally love Wreck-It Ralph, because I think it has the best
Easter eggs.
The best Easter eggs, especially if you're a gamer. Wreck-It Ralph is by far the best movie to watch for Easter eggs and references to video games. Nonetheless, yeah, the Tarzan one kind of totally falls apart from that point.
Yeah.
Especially because, not to mention that Frozen 2 as a film exists and proves that they didn't land in Africa. If I'm not mistaken, the time frames too between each of them makes no sense.
Yeah, so, it doesn't make sense.
Like, think about this. In Tarzan, the boats are, a little bit more modern. They're like within the same, like it was like an actual cargo ship that was made of, metal and steel and things like that. And that's when Tarzan was like, give or take, let's say he was in his 20s. Although Disney has this very common thing of making people who look like they're in their 20s or 30s actually being like 12 years old. So for the sake of our argument, let's just say he was in his 20s during the events of the Tarzan film, where he meets Jane and meets, Clayton, and that whole craziness happens. Because the thing is, if we were to think of him as younger, that would actually make this theory have even less weight. So let's say he was in his 20s. Tarzan is meant to take place in like the early 1900s, like the 1910s, 1920s, if we consider the type of technology that's introduced in there, and the things that that Jane brings. I'm sorry, I keep having a bunch of names through my head. The type of technology that Jane and her father and Clayton bring, and the boat and stuff, that's definitely 1900s, 1910s, 1920s. Frozen is meant to take place in like the early 1800s, like 1840s, 1830s. So if in the 1830s and 1840s, think about this, like, let's say in the 1820s, Anna and Elsa were like 18 and 15, whatever the case. Her parents, give or take, maybe 30s, 40s. Let's say 30s. So from 1820 to the 1900s, that's 80 years. If we were to start 1820 to 1900,
oh yeah,
that's 80 years.
Yeah.
If Anna and Elsa's parents were in their 30s,
wait, 1820s to the 1900s?
Yeah, that's 80 years.
80 years, yeah.
So if Anna and Elsa's parents were, let's say, 30 years old when the movie's chronological time era, like 1820, or the time period of Frozen, from there to there is 80 years. So if we add 80 plus 30, which is the assumed age that we're going to give for the parents, they basically had to have been 120 years old to give birth to Tarzan. Think about that.
Man, they look good for the age.
Yeah, and the photo that they show them, going into the island.
Look at them.
Building a fucking...
Look at them.
The age that they are building...
Ooh, damn.
The age showing them building a treehouse in Africa when there's tons of crazy bugs that could kill them with a single bite, with 120...
Drop the skincare routine, sis.
And 120-year-old's immune system cannot handle. That's why they just when you really...
Oh my god.
When you think
think about the timeline, that is really funny.
Because that was the biggest argument.
Oh my god.
That was the biggest counter argument that I came across when I first heard about this theory before Frozen 2 even came out. With Rapunzel, it's definitely a possibility. There's definitely some weight on that. But when it comes to connecting it to Tarzan, I was like, okay, now that is a huge stretch.
That's a stretch.
Because I loved Tarzan, and I remember vividly, because I played the Tarzan game on the computer. Love that game to death.
Oh, you're so cute.
So it was also on the PS1 and N64 if any of you guys played it. But nonetheless, that part was like, okay, now that's a stretch. Like, if for that to be the parents of Anna and Elsa, like they'd have to have been 100-something years old to have given birth to Tarzan. And everybody knows that you can't give birth at 100 years old. You can barely breathe at 100 years old.
You can try.
You could try. You barely even have sex at 100.
That's depressing.
But yeah, that's my case of it.
Can I just say, can you please answer this question? We just got a question in the chat, by the way. That's where we're laughing.
McCringleberry asks if we're siblings. No, we're not siblings. Well, we're dating, but we also are siblings.
Oh my god, you're the grossest person in the world.
No, I'm kidding. No, we're not siblings. We are boyfriend and girlfriend. So no, we're not siblings.
Oh my god. Oh my god. My boyfriend, raw. Whatever.
The roaring 20s.
The roaring 20s.
Hey. All right, anyway. So now we're going to move on to the next theory, which now this one I've heard of too, and it really it's possible. It's definitely possible.
Okay.
It's definitely
this
possible.
one I'm like in the in-between.
All right. So Lilo and Nani's parents, there's a certain thing about them that's very interesting, and the little icon that we have there kind of possibly hints to what the deal is with them. I didn't say what it is yet because I want you to do the big reveal, and I want to see what you guys might think about this. Like, take a moment to think about it. Like, once she reveals it, pause it, like pause our podcast. If you're rewatching this, take a moment to think and see if it's possible, and then we'll continue from there. So, what's the big secret about Lilo and Nani's parents?
They're CIA agents.
Possible. Maybe. What do you think?
Maybe.
You think it's a maybe?
Maybe. And the biggest, I actually know. I know this by heart.
Oh, perfect.
The biggest piece in this little theory puzzle is Mr. Cobra Bubbles.
Oh, yes, Mr. Cobra Bubbles.
Cobra Bubbles, my man. All right, listen. So Cobra Bubbles, when he shows up in the film, he needs to check on Nani and Lilo's home and the state that they're in because he's a social worker, and obviously they're aware that they don't have parents.
Right.
Nani's 19 at this age, though, so she is of age, but still.
Right.
Lilo is at a certain age where you have to be, just be carefully watched.
Of course.
So he's a social worker. Fine, cool. But realistically, in that first scene, The house is a mess.
Right.
The house is a mess. The kitchen is a mess. Lilo seems really depressed. And any social worker would see that state realistically and be like, okay, I'm going to take your kid. Like, this is not a comfortable living space. I'm just going to... They won't even give you time, because for them, it's just like, no, you should have had this already in check.
Right, of course.
But Cobra Bubble's like, you have 3 days to change my mind. You gotta make some changes here. I'm gonna leave. And he leaves. So people think like, wait, he's a social worker though. He shouldn't have just been like, all right, peace out. You're not gonna have Lilo anymore.
Of course.
So that was one piece of the evidence. Another piece is that when at the end of the film where, oh God, I'm blanking out on her name, but the extraterrestrial woman, the lady, do you remember her name?
I don't remember her name, but I know who you're talking about.
I'm going to call her Batty. So, Batty. So when Batty comes down and she goes, you look familiar. And he goes, oh, 1973, CIA, special unit, whatever. And he goes, ah, yes. I go, you had hair back then.
Oh,
whatever. Yeah. So what the hell is a social worker working for the CIA?
Connection?
I
think so.
I think so, because no, he already said it. So Cobra Bubbles is for sure a CIA agent.
Yes,
for sure.
They make it very clear that he has some tie
with
to
the CIA,
with the CIA, or some even like Secret Service, or who knows,
right.
maybe people, Area 51 type stuff.
So people, I think, like saying, okay, then he's not even a social worker; he's just a CIA agent.
Right.
Now, but why would he show up at the house of Lilo and Nani?
Of course.
I think he shows up because he was either friends or had worked with them on a project back in the day. And he, even though Nani was older, he still wanted to check up on them. That's why he said, I'll give you 3 days. Because he doesn't want to separate them, because knowing how much is going to hurt the both of them. Of course. But he just wanted to check on them. Right. And also, Cobra Bubbles has done work with the extraterrestrial, as we now know. Yes. So I feel like because he could have checked on them on any day, I think. Of course. But the minute that they were about to like get Stitch, this was right before Stitch walked into the light, he started knocking on their door. Because maybe he had a feeling that Stitch was going to go to the house, or maybe that Lilo was going to have a disconnection with Stitch, just because, who knows, because maybe even the parents they're suggesting that worked with extraterrestrial. So there's a big implication that there's a deeper tie and a deeper connection with Cobra Bubbles. He knows a lot more than we think. Because we know very little about the parents. We know so little about the parents, but again, why would out of all the houses he goes to that house? But did the TV show make a honestly reference? I don't remember much of the show, so I can't really say. But and also Cobra Bubbles, towards the end of it, he's with them like as a family member. Right. You see them in the photographs towards the end credits. He's always at every holiday function. Like, it's not just the job for him. So why would he be that connected if he was just a social worker and stuff like that? He wouldn't be. And why would he be so caring towards Lilo and Nani? Right. Because maybe he goes, oh, these are the kids of my old friends or my old agents. I have to look after them. Right. And I think the main reason why this has a heavy possibility is precisely like we mentioned. There's very little said about Lilo and Nani's parents. And Lilo's parents were killed during the storm. Right. We know very, very little, so it gives a lot of room for us to speculate and really. But Cobra Bubbles saying, "Oh, I'm a social worker," and then he's like, "Oh, CIA special agent." I'm like, "Oh, that's a big kind of like." Right. You know, and I go, "Oh, that makes sense." I think this one actually makes sense. I see. So yeah, the big thing that we rely on for this to hold some weight is Cobra Bubbles. He's like the main. He's the main guy. He's the connection here. He's the connection. Awesome. Okay. Well, yeah, I think this one definitely has a possible thing. I personally am gonna have to rewatch most of these movies with these theories in mind. Let's watch this one. We'll watch Lilo and Stitch later, definitely. And again, just a reminder for all of you guys, that are listening in, rewatch these movies. Whether you think that these theories don't really have much going on for them, if you think, oh no, that makes no sense, just keep them in mind and rewatch the movies, and there make your decision. Because
that's the thing. Like a lot of these theories, any movie theory usually relies heavily on very minor details that we may not have picked up on in our first watch, or maybe we barely remember it. But now when we listen to them or watch them again with more context, it could really change our perspective. So who knows? Yeah, just the movies we mentioned here, feel free to watch them again with keeping in mind the things that we talk about today. And not just that, you could dive even deeper, dive down that rabbit hole, look at all the other theories that exist that we haven't talked about today.
I like this one though. Yeah,
this one's pretty cool. Now, on to the next one. Ooh.
Where somebody left me.
So, this one is another well-known one.
This is just depressing to me.
It is kind of depressing. So, Jessie from Toy Story, her previous owner, Emily, was actually Andy's mom. A crazy, crazy idea, perhaps? Or is it possible? I like this one, but I think it's because I really want it to be true.
I know.
Because it'd be a really awesome concept to imagine. Yeah, so, all right. What do we have as evidence to really
It all started.
Oh no.
With a hat. Thank you. So, wow. It all started with a hat. No, and that is true.
Yeah.
So at the beginning of Toy Story, before Andy goes off to camp and all that jazz, you see Andy's hat.
Mm-hmm.
Andy's hat does not look like Woody's hat. Andy's hat looks exactly like Jessie's hat.
Right. They're very similar.
What do you mean they're very similar? It's the same hat. It's the same hat. All right? And he wears it consistently. Mm-hmm. Consistently throughout the film. So, that's a big evidence because it's the same one. The only difference is that the sash on the hat is white on Jessie's. And Andy doesn't.
Mm-hmm.
So, let me see. Also, Andy obviously has a close connection with Woody.
Right.
And in Toy Story 2, his mom mentions that Woody is an old family toy.
True.
So that implies that she remembers like a cowgirl toy that was like passed on in the family.
Mm-hmm.
So, and obviously and it's this article here, like it compares the hat between Jessie's hat and Andy's hat. And like I said, it's the only difference is the white sash.
The white sash.
So.
The white sash. He has the white sash.
Mm-hmm.
Oh my God! I didn't think of that.
I'm leaving.
No, seriously, I didn't think of that.
No, but think about it, for real.
Dude!
Look, babe, look at this.
He has the white sash. Well, I mean, Woody's does too, doesn't it?
He has a brown sash.
Oh.
But look at this hat and look at this hat.
And you could easily, like, okay, because we're actually looking at photos here. And you guys could see for yourselves, but yeah, Andy has a more red-like sash, but I mean, the easiest thing you can counter that with is age.
Right.
Wear and tear, dirt, whatever the case.
So
or maybe it was just a replacement sash because the white one disappeared.
Quick backstory with the story of Jessie, if you guys forgot or whatever. Mm-hmm. Story of Jessie. Her owner, Emily, grew up with her same way as Andy did. Andy did everything with Woody. Jessie did everything with Emily.
Right.
That was the way it was. So Jessie was Emily's favorite toy. She was so loved. But obviously when Emily started growing up, she started playing with her toys less. So Jessie ended up just being in a storage box for a while. And it was so sad because when she finally gets back with Emily reality was just dropping her off.
Yeah.
She was just giving her away.
Yeah.
Now, I actually want you to pull this up. I want you to see this. This is on Emily's room, her bed. Right. So,
all right,
what do we see right here, ladies and gents? A hat.
Yes. So she did have a hat.
She did have a hat.
To go alongside with Jessie.
What do we see here, ladies and gents? And you see this missing part right here? Where a sash should be?
Uh-huh.
And it's not?
Uh-huh.
Sash?
Uh-huh.
Missing sash.
Okay, it is pretty close. I will say it is pretty close.
Okay. The donation box. The donation box that Emily puts Jessie in, we don't see the hat. We do see other remnants of her collection with Jessie, but the hat is absent.
Right.
She kept the hat. So Emily held on to the hat, maybe passed it on to her child who grew up to also love a cowboy doll. We never get a close up, but we do see that she has a light auburn hair as a child. Also, it is very short.
Right. That I do remember. I do remember that the very few moments that we saw Emily's look, the hair was very similar to Andy's mom.
Okay, you can take this away now.
Yeah.
So, and also with Emily, we only know Emily. We don't know her last name.
Right.
This one, what's her last name? Mrs. Davis, right?
Who?
Andy's mom, Mrs. Davis, I believe.
Yeah, I believe it is. But we don't
Mrs. Davis. But we don't know her first name. But we know Emily's first name. And we don't know Emily's last name. Think about it. Think about it.
Yeah, I mean,
I really believe this one. Like, this is the one that I really think, oh, for sure.
Yeah, I think...
For sure.
It's definitely possible. It's definitely possible. I think I've always thought that this one could be true, or rather that I want it to be true, because that's kind of the other thing too. There's what we think could be true and what we want to be true, and it's really hard to kind of, keep yourself in check in those things, especially with theories. But definitely, if that were to be true, that'd be really interesting. But yeah, watch Toy Story 2 again and really think about these things that we're mentioning, these details. Most of this, in fact, if you don't even want to rewatch the entire movie, most of these sequences you can see in just looking up at Jessie's flashback. You could YouTube it.
Oh.
Which is really sad, by the way. I think honestly, out of all the Disney movies, Toy Story has definitely gotten me the saddest. Out of all the Pixar movies. And yes, I know the Pixar movies especially know how to get people sad, but the Toy Story series has definitely found its ways to make me feel...
Because it's so like, we grew up with toys, so our toys are like, our friends. So it's like the thought of them actually being real.
Exactly.
And then whenever we mistreated them, is like this horrible guilt that a child carries.
Exactly, yeah. But next up, we're going to be doing one that I think it's actually your favorite movie, or one of your favorite movies.
It is my favorite Disney movie.
All-time favorite movie. So, and you would think that this one's kind of like, okay, like random, or you might think this wasn't much, but it's definitely really intriguing, I think. So the next thing we're going to be covering is Belle's book.
Question mark?
Belle's book. What does Belle's book have to do with anything?
Well, this one's actually pretty quick. I can get through this really quickly.
Of course.
Belle's a reader. She's the only one in the village that reads, so she's always in the library and she's reading books. And when she goes like, oh, do you have anything new? And he's like, no, not since yesterday. You've already read all these books in this library, Belle.
Right.
And he's like, okay, I'm going to take out this one. He's like, you've already read this. He goes, I love this one because it's about far off places, daring sword fights, magic spells, a prince in disguise. That's alluding to a lot of the Disney films. Like that could be Sleeping Beauty. Mm-hmm. That could be... But a lot of people are saying that that's actually the story of Beauty and the Beast that she's reading.
Right.
So she's actually reading Beauty and the Beast while she's in Beauty and the Beast.
Of course.
Meta.
So,
because far off places, the castle she ends up going to is in a far off place.
Mm-hmm.
Daring sword fights. The castle brawl.
Yeah.
Magic spells.
Yes.
The Enchantress Curse.
Yes.
A prince in disguise. Prince Adam, who is the Beast.
Right.
That's his magic spells, a prince in disguise. Underneath that beast exterior and underneath the beast, it really lies a prince.
Mm-hmm.
So she's reading Beauty and the Beast while she's in Beauty and the Beast.
That's crazy to me. That's a crazy idea. Mm-hmm. Holy shit.
But think about it. I mean, makes sense.
It kind of does.
Yeah, but now that we're on Beauty and the Beast,
I honestly thought it was possibly because I always heard that part and I'm like, is that possibly a reference to another princess? I thought it was actually Sleeping Beauty.
Yeah, there's people who think it's Beauty and the Beast, and then there's people who think it's Sleeping Beauty.
Got it. But I think it's definitely possible that it would make more sense for it to be Beauty and the Beast because it kind of fits within its own thing.
Mm-hmm.
Which if it actually was Beauty and the Beast, Belle reading about the story she's about to experience, that's hardcore meta.
That's hardcore meta.
Yeah.
And while we're here, let me talk some shit on the Enchantress.
Oh yes, we haven't even
because this is not even a theory. This is a fact, and I want to bring this up.
Go for it.
Because the rose, he needed to be loved, the prince, by when the last rose petal falls on his 21st birthday.
Right.
And there's a lyric in Cogsworth Lumiere like, oh, it's been 10 years that we've been like this.
Yes.
They say that.
Yeah.
21st birthday, 10 years. Subtract 11, meaning he was cursed at age 11. That is a harsh punishment from an enchantress to put on an 11-year-old because he was like rude.
People were pretty like, whenever I see things that are somewhat medieval times, people were very, very harsh, especially to kids.
I highly suggest all of you to read the real Grimm fairy tale books because they are wild.
Oh yeah. 100%.
And violent.
Oh yes, 100%.
So you should definitely give those a read. But yeah, can you believe that? He was only 11 when he was cursed. And that's a fact.
I can't.
He was only 11.
That. I mean, I can believe it, but it's just kind of like, wow.
And people say like, but how does that make sense? And all this thing. I'm like, well, that's a fact. They said it. 10 years they've been like this and it's 21st birthday. So you do the math.
Yeah.
But then the enchanted portrait in his room, the picture of him when he looks older. Mm-hmm. That was actually a gift from the enchantress to show him like, this is what you could have looked like right now. But since you were awful, now you look like a beast, but you could have looked like this. And every year the picture gets older and older with age to show her like the years are passing.
Right. Okay. Well, I mean, in the Grimm, when you say, because now I'm trying to think about it. No,
this is in the Disney one.
So in the Disney one, he was 11.
Yes.
That doesn't even look like 11. Gee, I mean, but that's kind of the issue that most of the princess movies have. Most of the issue with most of the princess movies is that the main characters, they don't look like their age that they're supposed to be.
Snow White was 14.
She didn't look 14.
And the Prince Charming in Snow White, well, not Prince Charming, Prince Philip.
Prince Philip.
That's not Prince Philip. Prince Philip is Sleeping Beauty.
Oh, didn't you say Sleeping Beauty?
I said Snow White.
Oh, Snow White, my bad.
No, Prince.
He was just known as the Prince.
Whatever. He's a prince.
People have, there's different names about there.
She was 14, he was 23.
Oh my God. The only age one that I can kind of see and be like, okay, that's possible is Ariel. Because she blatantly says, I'm 16 years old, I'm not a child.
I'm not a child anymore. Yes, you are.
Yeah, she can look 16, but
and I think Aladdin and Jasmine, I think they look older.
How old?
I think Aladdin's it's like 20 and Jasmine's like 18 or 19. Yeah, that makes sense to me.
Okay, that's fair enough. I don't know.
They also have the most realistic love story in my opinion.
I think it's because since I saw them as a child and saw them and just they looked so much older than me because the only comparison I had was myself and my parents. My parents are way older than them and I was way younger than them. So I think, it's just when you had the reference point, I don't know. Even now when I rewatch the movies, I'm like, they can't look, they don't look 12. They don't look 14. They don't look 16. Like the only one, again, I can kind of agree with is Ariel. Now, this next one just makes a very depressing movie even more depressing. Carl. Carl from Up, he was already dead in the beginning of the movie.
R.I.P. to my man Carl.
My dude. So, okay, this one, it's gonna be hard for me to accept. So, state your case. What do you got? What do you got for me? How can you prove to me that he is dead in the beginning?
I want to get to you in sadder.
Carl was alive the whole movie. Changed my mind.
I'm not going to just because I also believe that. But I'm going to talk about the theory.
Okay, go ahead.
So basically at the beginning, Act 1 of the film is very realistic.
Of course.
And I think that's why Up resonated with so many people because this was so real.
It's so saddening. But
it's real. Like the fact that in that short clip during Married Life, which is like that 5-minute clip that will make anyone bawl.
Yeah.
You see them go through the everyday life and challenges, but they come together and they still love each other, and it's this wonderful thing of like, this is what goes on in a marriage, the highs and the lows.
Yeah.
So you see them, that they try to have a child, they can't have a child. They had to use their savings that they want to do to travel and to have an adventure. They have to use it for, everyday practical things.
For emergency funds
funds and stuff like that.
Yeah.
And then you see her get sick, and then you see kind of her accept that the fact that she's going to be going before he will. Mm-hmm. And then you see the funeral. So like you see all of this, which is very real, it's very human.
Oh yeah.
So then you see him become like this really lonely old man, and then they basically say, because he has never stayed away from the house. Like he lived in that house since he lost Ellie. That's been his house with Ellie. Doesn't want to leave there. Mm-hmm. But the world is changing and the world's adapting, and they wanted to use that space to construct, and that's what they were constructing all over his house. But they were like, sir, you should really, why don't you just go to an old, a senior center? And he was like, I refuse, and he hits that construction worker, which he ended up having to go to court for.
Yeah.
And so he had the court summons. And so again, really real.
Yeah.
This is a real scenario in real life.
Oh, yeah.
So people are speculating that after the court summons is when he actually passed, because after that, everything became a fantasy. That's when he started this idea of getting the balloons and flying off. And then...
okay.
So people are saying because, like, the balloons flying, and coincidentally, they flew to South America where him and Ellie wanted to go, coincidentally. And also his hero, who he looked up to, the pilot that made him want to like fly and adventure, he's somehow still alive, and he's also in that area. Mm-hmm. And along on this trip, he has Russell, which is the son that he always wanted, never had. So you're connecting all the things that Carl really wanted. All of a sudden, now it's in the second act of the movie, and you're thinking,
and it is like you said, a very sudden shift.
It's not like
from reality to just pure fantasy.
Boom, fantasy, and it's everything that Carl wanted. So that's the coincidence. I don't believe it. I think it's just that life was giving him this last, you're not enjoying yourself. You need to do this before you pass. Mm-hmm. But I mean, in the sense, I'm like, that could be, because then towards the end, you see him, he already lived, he already had his adventure, and now he is standing by Russell's side. Yeah. And he's, this is someone he's proud of, and he's gonna nurture him in a way that he can right now. Right. So he ends up getting the things he wanted. Mm-hmm. So that's why people say.
Then, yeah. I mean, I think when it comes to this theory, it makes it more sad.
It makes it so sad.
But then if this was supposed to be like, so in a simple way, the second act of the film is essentially like his heaven.
His heaven, his imagination. Basically his last dream before he passes. Got
it. Because, I was about to say, like, if it was entirely meant to be heaven, then there wouldn't have been any conflict to begin with.
I think it was his last dream.
It could, if it take it as like a last dream, or like, because a lot of people, the few times I've heard or read cases of people having like a near-death experience, mm-hmm. Usually like it could be somewhat similar to this. So who knows? Yeah, I think it definitely makes things interesting, but now this is a movie I really want to rewatch thinking this. Man, but I'm going to cry for sure watching Up again.
Let's cry. Let's cry together, boy. Don't worry, I'll hold you.
Look, if you can watch Up, all right, if you've seen Up and got really sad in the beginning of the movie, like definitely give a like or a thumbs up wherever you're watching this, because that means that
you have a soul.
You have a soul, which is good.
How can you not cry in those first 5 minutes?
I've yet to find someone who was unfazed. Maybe not everybody
cry,
cries,
but like watery eye, or like go or like oh my god.
Yeah, they feel like their heart hurts or something. Like I've yet to meet someone who's completely unfazed.
The first time I watched that, I had to take a 20-minute break.
You know what's crazy too? What I always love about animation and just art in general, when you really think about it, most, if not all of the entire first half of like when we get an idea of Carl and Ellie's life, except for when they're kids, because they obviously need to have
and she goes, "You're weird. I like you."
They need to have some level of dialogue to really establish stuff. Everything after that entire sequence, there's no dialogue.
And they have like the most beautiful love story.
And that's why so many people connect to it, regardless of the language or regardless where they come from, because it's so real regardless of it. And one thing I noticed almost immediately when we were in Disneyland, there's a couple of things where they always reference the famous theme, the famous piano song from Up, especially when we watch World of Color, because it's on Pixar Pier, which is based off of Pixar. So naturally, they're going to reference every Pixar movie that they can. And there's a brief moment in World of Color. We're not going to spoil it because you guys got to watch it. There's a brief moment where they bring up the song from
everyone.
Everyone just
goes, oh.
Everyone sighs or goes, oh, but not sigh in like a, oh. They sigh like just like a, oh.
Like either heartwarming or like, oh man.
Because everyone immediately, whenever you hear the song, you immediately think of the moment of
and
like
Carl and Ellie.
Of Carl and Ellie, and you're just like you in your head in like in a matter of a second or even less than a second, everything goes through your head of how it starts, how it ends, and just your heart.
I think it's the most beautiful love story.
Your heart shriveling up with just pain and just sadness.
It's like, oh, Ellie.
Yeah, literally everyone around just went, oh. And I'm just like...
At that point, I mean, I was already emotional, but I was like...
Yeah, so that definitely is a movie that can never be forgotten. You know, my dad has actually never seen Up. And I really want him to watch it and see...
Our night plans are sorted.
Yeah, my dad's not one to really show much emotion on things, especially with film. Because he loves movies, but he's more like an action movie guy. So I'm really curious to see how he's going to react to the Up sequence.
He'll just be like, oh man.
Because my mom saw it for the first time a couple months ago. And that, like, I watched her. Like, that's the thing.
Slowly break.
Whenever I introduce the movie Up to someone, I don't watch the first half. I watch the person who hasn't seen it yet watch the first half. And just gradually see their body and their face change from like some level of excitement or curiosity to just sadness and just or like teary-eyed. And my mom got teary-eyed for sure. And I'm really curious to see how my dad's gonna handle it. I'm sure he's
probably gonna be my 12th time seeing that scene, and I'm gonna be like
I'll let you guys know on Twitter. You can follow me on Twitter, EdMadman, EDMADMAN.
Always be plugging.
Yeah, of course.
Follow my Twitter. My Twitter @is Maria is all right.
Am
I all right? Find out.
Maria's all right. Yeah. So follow my Twitter, and I'll keep you guys updated on when I show him the movie and how he reacts to the sequence. Anyway, now we're going to the last theory, which we have a very special thing for, and this is really going to be... This is meant for mainly the people
Join us on this journey. It's a journey.
This is meant for the people who are going to be watching us live or the people who are going to be watching this on YouTube. But we will give a brief moment to talk about exactly how this all plays out. But there's a little surprise at the end of it that you guys might hopefully enjoy.
So
anyway, the Pixar theory. Another very well-known theory. Almost as well-known as the Frozen theory. But not as much.
I think this is the most popular theory.
This is a very popular theory, yes. So go ahead and give us a quick roundup on what the Pixar
The basis is that every universe in the Pixar world is connected.
Yeah, every Pixar film is connected in some way, shape, or form.
And
they all take place in the same...
Usually a lot of people just give their input on this, but I actually wanted to do this with you guys because I think the way that you see it connects is like, oh, wait, how did you get here?
Well, the thing is, I remember when I looked up this theory, the one thing that everybody used as a leverage point for this theory is the simple Easter egg that's in every Pixar film, which is the Pizza Planet. The Pizza Planet.
Yeah. It all started with that, and then
I think not the ball. I think the ball doesn't show up in every movie. It's the Pizza Planet truck.
But the ball shows up in a lot of the films.
Yeah, that's either the ball, but most well known is the Pizza Planet truck. In every movie, there's an Easter egg to the Pizza Planet truck. You'll see it somewhere in the film. You can look it up. It's always referenced. So that alone had a lot of people saying like, same universe ?
And the creator was, I think, this guy named Joe, and he kind of like jump started this and it became like a cult like fan thing. And then they all created this website, which is a Pixar theory, and we're gonna show it to you guys right now.
Yes. If you guys want to see us do this, watch this on YouTube, or if you're watching this on Twitch, you'll be able to see it now. But if you are just listening to this on Spotify or Apple Music or wherever else, just go to pixartheory.com
and see for yourself.
And just experience this for yourself. Just experience it. Pixartheory.com. It is crazy the things that they've come up with for this. So, the Pixar theory. You wanted me to do, because you've done this already, you said, right?
Yes.
So I'm going to be doing this completely blind. I've never done this before. So let's see. The Pixar theory. All of the Pixar movies actually exist within the same universe.
Question mark?
Your current, well, it says exclamation. So it's stating that with excitement. You're currently viewing the Pixar movies in chronological order. Makes sense. I am curious about how Merida fits into all of this. So here we go. We're going to enter the Pixar universe. Bam. Okay.
Now we're in chronological order according to the Pixar theory.
I see. So Brave, which was in the 14th to 15th century. It all starts with Merida discovering the will-o'-the-wisps. The magic turns her mother into a bear. Okay. This magic is why animals and inanimate objects, brooms and tools, behave like humans. Magic was utilized by a witch who mysteriously vanishes through the wooden doors. Eventually, the magic from the will-o'-the-wisp would lead to birth of superheroes. Oh. I'm just already at page 1 and I'm already like, this is okay. The Incredibles. That's where the Incredibles come in. I see. Okay. So the Incredibles is meant to take place in the 50s and the 1950s and the 1960s. So superheroes maintained order in the world, but Buddy, a wannabe superhero, created two things for the demise of superpowered humans: self-serving AI bots like the Omni Droid, that big bowling ball with tentacles, and the high-tech zero-point energy, electromagnetic energy that exists in a vacuum. This is the pivotal moment where we see machines eradicating their only threat, supers. Okay? Eventually, toys start to absorb and draw their powers from zero-point energy, unseen energy that travels in wavelengths. Oh, that's Toy Story, ain't it? This is Toy Story. Yep, Toy Story. Okay, which takes place in 1997, 1998. So, the first signs of life from toys are now present due to Syndrome's technological prowess. So the toys, or the sentient objects, come up with a code of rules and learn that human love is another energy source upon which they thrive. These toys discover what happens to toys that are isolated from humans. Okay, interesting. So, and then it's just the rest of the films, right? Toy Story 2, okay. The toys discover that it is dangerous for them to be isolated from humans. We start to see inanimate objects question their purpose in life. For example, Jessie, who resents her owner, Emily for abandoning her, which we already talked about could possibly be Andy's mom. Resentment towards humans was not only carried by inanimate objects, but by animals as well. Oh. So Finding Nemo, how does this connect? In the ocean, we find that fish are incredibly advanced. They have schools, a network, and freeway system. We discover that humans are polluting the earth and experimenting on them. Dory was one of the animals that was experimented on, which is why she is forgetful. That explains, Finding Dory. There are signs of resentment growing towards humans for polluting the environment, stealing fish, and caging them. And animals begin to be more curious and carry more humanistic characteristics.
Because of all the experimentation.
Ratatouille! Oh my god! Okay, so at Ratatouille, Remy discovers his love for cooking and displays human characteristics. Some of them are walking on his hind paws, cleaning his hands, reading, and cooking. This is the first time we see personal interaction between human and animal, but it is for the purpose of controlling humans. Uh-oh. Remy controls Linguini because Linguini does not know how to do anything. Yeah.
Damn.
He's pretty bad at doing things.
Aww.
We see that Remy's rat clan does not approve of the humans and feels both fear and hate towards them. So then, Toy Story 3. So 3 years later, toys have gone through a lot with humans. If you've seen the movie, you can tell why most of the toys have had it. Being abused physically and emotionally by humans. Lotso the Huggin' Bear is straight up hates humans because they use and discard toy objects like they are nothing. He starts trying to take care of his own kind. This provides yet another reason why machines and objects alike are ready to take over. Carl and Ellie write to Andy telling him to get rid of his toys because they know the animosity between toys and humans coming ahead. And that's why they are planning on living in solitude. Okay, so that's a way of describing the heavy resentment that Lotso had in particular. Although I felt like it was already well described within the film, but this opens up things quite a lot. Okay, so Up. Now, where does Up fit into this? Between 2011 and 2016, Carl's forced to give up his house to a corporation because they are expanding the city. This is foreshadowing. This corporation is the cause for polluting the earth and wiping out life in the distant future. I think I know where this is going. As a result of technology overreach, Carl discovers that animals can communicate with humans and sees the bitterness that they have. Charles Muntz effectively trains an army of dogs, and this is the start of the tipping point between animals and humans. Years later, the uprising between animals and humans begins. Who do you think won that war? Probably animals, I'm assuming. Now, anyway, when animals rose up against the humans to stop the pollution, the machines saved the humans and they won the war. However, since machines help humans win, it tipped the balance on Earth. Machines/BNL, which is the corporation, I'm guessing, had to send the remaining humans off into space on a ship called Axiom. All of the other machines were left behind to populate the world and run things.
I remember, there's always the evidence here.
Of course. But how do we know cars took over Earth and not the other planet? Let's actually look at the evidence. There's a screenshot. Machines are still heavily influenced by humans, which explains the human landmarks and traditions that are prominent in cars. Plus, their personalities and whatnot makes sense too. Now, the Axiom is in flight. The humans had to flee Earth to avoid extinction during the war. So that's where WALL-E kind of fits in, I see.
And mind you, look at the timeline. This is now
2100 to 2200. Interesting. Cars 2, which is in the same time period. In Cars 2, Cars goes to Europe. The cars go to Europe and Japan, which shows that it is the same planet as all the other Pixar movies. It also shows that there are no humans throughout the world. The world this time ends up with an energy crisis, as oil is the only energy used for cars. Okay.
You have to watch a movie.
Alan, yeah, I haven't. I'm sorry, guys. I have not seen the Cars movies. Hate me all you want, but I do plan to see them at some point now that we have Disney Plus. Alanol Corporation was using green energy as a catalyst for a fuel war in order to turn cars away from the alternative energy sources. That clean fuel could have been used to swiftly wipe out decommission many of the cars. Alanol was run by BNL, which is the corporation we talked about, which eventually polluted the whole earth due to its use of oil. The whole world becomes unfit to sustain life. So basically what they're saying at that point is that the pollution that came across all of the cars with no humans is what led to the world that WALL-E is in. Oh my gosh. Wow. Okay, this is amazing, guys. Guys, seriously, check this website out, pixartheory.com. Anyway, let's continue. WALL-E. So WALL-E connects to this because Earth has become uninhabitable for hundreds of years due to the BNL company. The corporation took over the world and the government starting in the 1950s. WALL-E is the only machine left on Earth after it ran out of the resources. He survived because he's fascinated with human culture and also his friendship with a cockroach, which helped maintain his personality and fulfillment. Robots and machines on Axiom, which having left Earth centuries earlier, show that machines develop a sense of purpose out of the humans' dependence on them. WALL-E is like a robot Jesus, and he and his love, the appropriately named Eve, save the human race and start a new beginning on Earth again. Wow. During the credits of WALL-E, we see the shoe that contains the last of plant life. It grows into a mighty tree. Okay. So then, if life is brought back anew, Bug's life! That same plant that we saw in WALL-E grew to be a tree in a bug's life. Insects have a longer lifespan in a bug's life. Prior to WALL-E, an ant can last just 3 months. However, in a bug's life, these ants all survive an entire summer and allude to being around for quite some time. One ant states that he feels 90 again. This indicates that ants are sturdier as a result of evolution and mutated genes. Another ant tells Flick not to leave the island because there are snakes, birds, and bigger bugs out there. They do not mention humans because there are very few humans to make it dangerous enough for insects to worry about. However, one kid did allegedly pick the wings off of the homeless bug. Later in the distant future, animals start evolving into the dominant species. Mm-hmm. So then that's Monsters
University.
Specifically. So hundreds of years after WALL-E, animals started changing due to radiation caused by BNL. These animals evolved into monsters and accidentally wiped humans off the face of the planet. Monsters University was founded in 1313. This is dated using the monsters calendar, not the human calendar, and shows that it took place almost 1400 years after A Bug's Life. At Monsters University, they falsely taught the monsters that humans were toxic and from another dimension. This was because monsters were worried about being erased from existence and altering history. Okay. So Monsters, Inc. Monsters and Machines didn't realize their mistake of getting rid of humans until it was too late. They eventually realized that humans were their source of energy and needed to sustain life. Machines helped solve that by letting monsters use doors to time travel to the human generations, which leads us to Boo. So the doors are for time travel? What? Okay, interesting. So Boo, how does Boo tie to this? Sweet little Boo never got over Sully and became obsessed with finding out what happened to him. She remembered that doors are the key to finding Sully. Later on in life, she figured out how to time travel using wooden doors and goes back to the source of all magic, the Will-o'-the-Wisps, and creates magic to find Sully by using wood. Oh no. Boo leaves evidence behind in Brave, 2 carvings whittled out of wood. They were Sully and a pizza truck, the 2 things she loves most in life. Although she knows how to travel through time, she does not know how to determine what time period she will go to. Therefore, speculation has it that Boo is the one planting the Easter eggs throughout all the Pixar movies because she has been accidentally going through different time periods. So... What? So she's the old woman? She's the old witch? Boo is the old witch in Brave? Mm-hmm. No way. Okay, I can really see how this could all flesh out, especially because it's a really interactive experience. By the way, if you go to this website and see each thing that they talk about, there's little windows that provide additional evidence to support their cases. Guys, really check this.
This is the Pixar theory.
This is the Pixar theory in a nutshell. Check this website out, pixartheory.com. It is super fun and really interesting. If you have any friends that have any slight interest in this, they would really enjoy this. So yeah, I mean, we were able to talk about this. Fortunately, I was able to read this to you guys that are listening on Spotify or any other, if you're just listening to this. But watch this on YouTube when we play this on YouTube or on our Twitch VOD so you can see what we experienced. Because, oh my God, that was crazy. Or experience it for yourself. But I am curious. Now, where does Bolt come into play with this?
I don't think this has been updated.
I mean, it has to have been because there's Toy Story 3. But there's Toy Story 3 and Monsters University. Both came out before those movies. That is crazy. That is a crazy theory. But I love it. It really does hold a lot of weight. I really don't think that the creators of these films had thought about this to that extent, but I'm sure they've seen this. I'm sure they were like, wow.
You know what? Props.
Whoever came up with this theory and came up with this website and this whole concept, props to you. This was amazing. This was awesome. So yeah, guys, those were all the theories that we were going to cover today. And thank you guys so much for listening. There are plenty of other theories, of course, and you are more than welcome to share them with us on Instagram, which is WUDiz Podcast, or on Twitter, which is the same, WUDiz Podcast. The link should be in the description or the show notes below. And yeah, if you have any other theories that you really thought were interesting, definitely share them with us. And of course, catch us on our next episode, which will be next Saturday.
Next Saturday.
If you want to know what that episode is going to be on, follow us on Instagram. That's the best way to know ahead of time. But again, guys, thank you so much for watching or listening, wherever you are watching or listening. And we'll see you again in the next episode, guys. Take care.
Bye, guys.
Bye.